The views and opinions of the guest do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Radio Network, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Radio Network.
Hi, what's up? This is Lee McKinney from Born of Osiris, and you are listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour, your source for all hard rock, heavy metal, new metal, alternative, punk, horror punk, hardcore, rock, and all local bands, with your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I am your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather, and as always, I'm bringing you guys and gals awesome interviews. Today it's an honor and a privilege to have Mr. Lee McKinney. He's the guitarist of Born of Osiris. Born of Osiris' new album, The Assimilation, is out now via Sumerian Records. We're going to be talking to Lee about the new album, The Assimilation, and all the good stuff about Born of Osiris. So, Lee, how's it going, man?
It's going really good. Just continue to promote the new album. It came out on Friday, so each day we're trying to give a little more, keep promoting it, but overall everything's great.
Excellent album from you guys. I really dig this, man. Just good, hard, heavy music from you all.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it was each album kind of have a different goal, but this one I think was fun because it wasn't a rebellious album where we want to do what we want and say fuck everybody else, but it was still, we were aware of what our fans over the years have wanted, and what we wanted to do this time just lined up really well with it. And so we're really happy with it, and it's been our best response on an album so far as the fan base goes. So it's just nice to be in that realm for once, because every time we release an album, we're so used to mixed reviews and all this stuff. And so it's kind of a unique time. It feels good, though.
Yeah, and plus, you know, when you record these songs and plus create them, you're sitting on these for a very long time. And I'm sure you guys get burnt out on them and stuff, but when you hear the reviews coming in and stuff, I'm sure that's got to put the excitement and the juices back into this album again.
Absolutely. We re-recorded and re-released our first album 10 years later. That was in 2017. So this album's actually been in the works since before that. So this one, especially, these songs, some of these are really, really old. And so I do see what you're saying, and I agree that, you sit on them for so long, by the time they come out, they're fresh for everybody else, but they're old news for you. So, yeah, this kind of crowd response makes it exciting for us as well.
That's cool that you guys went back and got old songs that could previously been on other albums and throw them on this album. I think that's really cool. And I think some bands overlook songs like that, man, because they could be like a hit in a jar, and they're just sitting there waiting to be put on something.
Absolutely. You never know. And I have a rock band. I have a solo guitar career. So sometimes it's like you look at all these different routes that you could take a riff or a song or an idea. And, I just think we made the right decisions with this one. And so far it seems like the fan base agrees.
Before we get into Born of Osiris, I want to talk to you about that a little bit, about your solo stuff. Now, you mentioned like riffs you want to use and things like that. Is it hard to decipher which one that you want to keep for Born of Osiris and then just use for you personally? Is that kind of hard now or no?
I would say it's not as hard as a lot of people would think, just because I approach the writing for it differently. As far as like a lot of the busier guitar parts, in Born of Osiris we have two vocalists. So I can easily tell what can be used for what, because if you get too crazy and busy with the instruments, when you throw vocals that can be complex on top of it, it can get really, really hectic. And that's coming from me, who's like a technical metal musician, progressive style. So for me to say things get too busy, that means they're probably really fucking busy. So I feel like I do the more chill things in Born solo records, a lot more of the wild guitar parts, because it's the lead line. So that's kind of the easiest way. Then again, an interlude or something, a guitar solo for Born of Osiris, I'd love to do that. That's the easiest way to take that time in a Born of Osiris song and do more busy guitar work, because you know at that point in the song it's not going to be vocal heavy. So that's kind of the way to get more of the sporadic stuff into the Born music.
So far, Lee, how's it been working with Seek and Strike? I know George is an awesome guy to work with. I've worked with him for several years now. How's it working with Seek and Strike PR?
It's been great. George worked with us on our album in the past that did our biggest first week. So we've had different publicists throughout the year. Well, yeah, and half of them I didn't even know their names. They would come in for a month when the album was released. I would see an email from them and be confused on who it was, what was happening. George is really hands-on. and my relationship with him is really cool. It's really personal. So I know exactly what's going on all the time. This is, once again, since the last one that he did, this is our most cohesive and most well put together album campaign leading up to it, and even now afterwards. So it's been great with him.
November and December saw Born of Osiris on tour with Killswitch Engage and Crowbar. That right there is a huge, huge accomplishment, my friend. How was the tour with those guys?
That was amazing. As far as Killswitch goes, I remember like when I was young delivering pizzas, listening to Killswitch Engage in my car, my first car probably. So that was an honor. Same with Crowbar, legendary group, incredible guys. We didn't know much about them personally, but that ended up being just such friendly, good people. And of course, everybody knows Killswitch Engage is friendly and cool and happy and happy-go-lucky. And it was an honor. It was it was a big bucket list band for us to be on the road with, because they really heavily influenced, the beginning of Born Of Osiris' career.
And I hate when people ask me all the time, do you prefer Jesse or do you prefer Howard? It doesn't matter. They both brought their own style to Killswitch, and they both are fucking good.
Exactly. My two favorite records that I wouldn't choose between have different guys on them. So for me, I don't care. They're both cool. Yeah, I have no preference. I really don't. My two favorites, one of them did each of them, so that's cool.
Even Howard's new band that he's doing, man, is badass. And I got to say this too, that the cover of Dio that they did with Howard, just unbelievable. Holy Diver. They did an excellent cover of that song. So Killswitch killed it with Howard on that one for sure.
Absolutely. They played that on the tour. It was really fun to see. We would have like a couple beers after our set, and when that shit started coming on, we were like all of a sudden in the middle of the crowd half the time. It was fun.
I haven't forgot your roots. That's what it's all about. You guys have released the official music video for The Accursed. Was it hard to choose between the current set of songs on this album, Lee? Which one would be the first single and video? Also, what did you want that first song to say for Born of Osiris for folks when they hear it?
It was hard. I think on other records it hasn't been this hard, but so the songwriting in Born of Osiris history has been like myself and the drummer kind of playing devil's advocate with each other. We have very different writing styles. It's the same genre, it's the same band, the same sound. But I guess inside of that, we do different things, and we kind of play the opposite sides of each other, like yin and yang kind of thing. And I think that's been so in the past. If they want some kind of more like radio style thing, we know which one that is. Or if they want, say, like, let's throw back to the old school, like death metal-y, we know what that is. This one, we have a new member writing music for us who was a fan of the band for 10 years before he got into the band. So he's coming from a place where, as a fan who said, what do I want Born of Osiris to do next? He's been able to come into the band and do that next step, which represents a lot of the fan base. He's coming from the fan base. So this time around, it was definitely hard. There's tons of different styles, tons of different ways we could go with everything, and so it was definitely hard.
Plus, you have a fresh set of ears and eyes to input what they want on here, too, for you all. Absolutely.
We've experienced this in the past with the producer Nick Sampson, who did a couple of our records, some levels or another, and he was a dude who grew up kind of listening to the band, too. Same age. But, the same year as we were putting music out, he was into the band before he started working with us. And then we noticed how cool it is to have someone come from the outside and go, man, this is what I always wished Born would do, and now I'm in the band doing it. So that's a direction that myself or the other songwriters that have made Born of Osiris what it is for the last 11 years, not something that we can see objectively because from being in the inside. So it's just been a big help.
Any songs off the album standing out more to you than any on it as of right now possible? I know these must change every time you listen to it, but are there any that stand out to you possibly?
Yeah, it's funny. There's one song called Under the Gun, and I've been writing that song like in so many different ways. I took it apart, reconstructed it. Basically, the melody of the keyboard line in the chorus was always there, and it's kind of almost poppy in the vibe of it. And so there was all this hesitation, like, this could go real wrong if it's like, people say this isn't the band that I'm so used to, technical, crazy metal band. So I kind of wrote the song and rewrote it and restructured it, kept messing with it. And so when eventually we said, fuck it, put it on the record, it came out. And I'm like, this will be the one, if anything, that people want to talk shit about. But apparently it's just somehow been the most talked about one, which is good. So now we're going to perform it on the upcoming tour. We're going to do a video for it. And this is all just based off of crowd response. So that's cool. Usually you're making these plans for music videos before the album's out yet. But this one, from the demand of the people, that they're going to get more of it.
Who produced this album, Lee?
I did, instrumentally. So I went to Chicago, where the bulk of the guys are from. We rented a studio, did all the instruments. I wasn't ever going to do vocals. So they were upstairs at the time when I was doing the album instrumentally. Downstairs, they rented a different studio above us. Didn't go the way they planned. I think us growing up in Chicago and trying to do an album there, distractions were a little high for them. So I still finished the songs. They had to do vocals later in California. But, so yeah, instrumentally I did. So then as far as vocals go, they went to Nick Sampson, who mixed and mastered the record and kind of showed us everything we know, and at least got me at a point where I'm able to do records now. So huge thanks to him. He did vocals, and then they went to California in the end and fine-tuned him one last time. So they were kind of done all over the place.
Do you like doing the producer route yourself for the band, and that way you have more freedom to do what you want, more time to do what you want? Do you like this side of it now?
Yeah, I think for those who've ever recorded music before, the studio can be so stressful. And it just, people start shaking, they get nervous, things that they could play with ease, all of a sudden they're tripping themselves out, unable to perform. So that's what I noticed as a kid. I started recording so young, before I was driving or permit, or before high school. I just had a friend's dad who was kind of had some crappy gear. So I've had a lot of experience with it. And the point I say that is for, I knew quickly that going forward, I wanted to take all the discomfort out of the situation. So it was a lead up. At first I did editing guitars and bass on the Discovery, which is our third album. And then the next album I tracked all the guitars and bass in my studio. And then we did a record with Nick Sampson. He taught me more. And then it led up to this point where I was able to do all the instruments, just learning things along the way. But yeah, you're right. The thing is comfort. You know, when I rented the studio in Chicago to do this album, I didn't go home or to a hotel at night. I slept on the couch in the studio. So
oh, wow.
They would come and we would do things during the day. They would leave around dinner time, and I would just be up. So I was able to go with the studio, go back in, do more, add more things, change things. So for me, this is the way to go. I'm just thankful that people like Nick Sampson and, you know, throughout my career have taught me as much as they have so openly and willingly, and, you know, putting me in a place to do this.
What do you hope everyone takes away from the album, or message you hope they hear while listening to it, or just any Born of Osiris's music in general, Lee?
Good question. You know, I don't do the lyrics or anything. So as far as like the overall message on that, it's hard for me to speak without being somewhat out of turn on that. But one thing musically that I try to do is kind of just deal emotions, and that's good, happy, sad, dark. One thing I like to do to communicate is just kind of deal with happiness. Like a chorus will be really upbeat and happy, where the verses were down and almost dark. And so this is just one example, but throughout the song, you get like this uplifting, overcoming feeling when you start in a dark place and you end up in a nice, happier place. Those are the kinds of things I like to do. So I think for people that may not know the band or listening for the first time, I think it'd be fun to just take a listen to how many emotions come across on one album. And that's just with the sound, not lyrics.
Now, you've been in a band for a very long time, Lee. How much growth musically have you seen this band and yourself go through up to the release of this new album? Or has it just been more of a personal growth for each of you guys involved in this?
Yeah, there's been many layers of growth as a group, and as myself. There was times when we were doing our third record where we just completely shut off the record label, wouldn't answer their calls or emails, and we locked ourselves up and would rebel. That's one example of there. After our first record, people thought the drums were fake, and they weren't. So the second record, we're like, fuck all these people, we're going to make it sound so real. And then we almost bit ourselves in the heels because people didn't like the sound of the drums. They were too soft and natural on the next one. So what we've seen is we've gone through different young phases of rebellion. I was 17 when we got offered a contract, and I had to wait till my 18th birthday, and then we were already on tour signed. So for me, we kind of grew up in front of our fan base. That's the immature times, the rebellious times, all the times our fan base has seen if they've been around from the start. So it's been quite a journey. I think right now we're getting close to our 30s. A couple of the guys are 30 now. And so I just think in general, you're done with the bullshit. You're done with your late teens. You're done with your 20s. You're done going psycho on the road because you think you're going to be some rock star. All that's kind of behind you. Now we're just kind of let's do music for the sake of music. We're lucky to be here. We know it. To be on our 11th year and still not 30, I know that I'm lucky. And so kind of taking everything more seriously.
Yeah, and you know just as well as I do, tomorrow you could wake up and it all could be gone, because that's how quick the music industry changes, and that's crazy. That's kudos to you guys for still being around for now.
Yeah, been very blessed.
When you come into the recording studio, Lee, do you do anything differently during that writing and recording process to maybe help keep your mind fresh and open to not let the music get boring or stale? Do you do anything differently that helps you out maybe?
No, one common trait we have as far as a band, though, is that we come 100% songs are done. So we're not a band that goes to the studio and says, hey, I got this minute and a half, let's make this a song. We haven't done that, so there's probably, I could see if there's pluses and negatives to it. One, we don't ever come unprepared, so I think that is helpful. That allows you to just use the time in the studio to make things better instead of scramble to make things complete. On the other hand, I see how the collaborative effort of finishing a song as a band. So I see both positives and negatives there. I'm not going to claim that's the right way, but that's one thing that has been consistent as far as us showing up to the studio every time.
What can fans expect at a show from Born of Osiris who have not got to hear you guys live as of yet, Lee?
Ideally, the lights will be wild. Our keyboard player does lighting, so that's a big part of our show, not just because we want it to be crazy, but because it's important to him. So the lights should be fun. Hopefully we'll play really well. We've had good, we've had bad. Those are the goals. Sound is very important for us. I think that there's a lot of new bands now that come up and they got a photographer hired and on tour to take pictures and do social media before they have a sound guy. I think that's totally backwards. So we have the aspect of we want to give you the best show we can give you sonically, musically. That's why we're out here doing this. And if we're headlining, we have the position to bring in our full lights and all that fun stuff, and you'll see that as well.
Now, we're living in the digital era of recording albums to get music out quicker, and plus now we have social media to reach out to more fans who have not got to hear of you guys as of yet. Do you like this that we're in right now or no? Because it can be both ways on this.
I don't think it's our style. I know we're still kind of youngish in our 20s and a couple 30s, so I don't want to sound like we like it old school or whatever. But one thing I do like is I liked when there was mystery and mystique with artists, and you show up and that's you see them, there they are. That's the artist. I always loved that growing up. I get to the concert, the first time they walk on stage, I'm like, holy shit, that's the person. Instead, now it's like, you have to have your Instagram updated every day, and you need to be connecting with fans. Otherwise, they think like you're like entitled or something. It gets really, really weird. And so for me, I've always wanted to do people come see us, and that's what it is. If people want to see me play guitar, they come to the show. And then now it's so about social media now. When I have a signature guitar now, and all these things, it's like, hey, where's your video content? Where's this? Where's this? Where's this? And so it's not exactly my style. But on the other side of the coin, we're not built on that kind of our success is not dependent on social media. So if social media died tonight, the same amount of people would show up to our tour in February as if it didn't, where other bands would never be able to say that. If social media went down, their tour would collapse in front of them. So, I guess that's my opinion. And while I say that, I'm going to go on Instagram and follow my favorite guitar players and see what they're up to. So I get it. I'm guilty as charged as well. But I guess that's my hypocritical standpoint.
I agree with you. I like that mystique. I used to like reading Hit Parader and Circus Magazine and Guitar World and stuff like that, because that's how I had to find out about seeing Motley Crue for the first time, or Guns N' Roses for the first time, or Vixen or Poison, stuff like that. Those,
absolutely.
And you see Judas Priest back in the day, and I was like, holy crap, man, this is cool stuff. And now it's like you see people, oh, this is what I had for breakfast. This is my dog Lulu or whatever. And it's like, I'm like, what? I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah. And now you see people that, like, if they don't like the way you walk or talk,
yeah,
and they're not going to listen to your band anymore. It's like,
yeah,
you have to be so much more than a musician. You have to be, I don't know. It's a little ridiculous.
Or you suck someone's ass to get where you're going, and no, I'm sorry. Not me.
Yep.
Not me, good sir.
There you go.
In your own opinion, man, what does Born of Osiris bring to the table for music that's not out there as of right now? Possibly. I mean, I know, you guys are not reinventing the wheel, but what do you bring to the table?
I think, there's been a poppy synth movement within heavy metal. I don't want to sound like the guy, but I can tell you that we've been credited for part of the start of that wave. Our little Midwest scene that was happening at the time when we were in high school, it was us and Vela Maya and After the Burial. And we were doing this thing. We were feeding off each other, nobody else. And so when we came out, we all got signed to Sumerian Records, and people started calling this sound Sumerian core, when they didn't realize we were just feeding off each other, and this was a sound before the record label. So I can at least say that around the time that was happening, and you've also had like your Devil Wears Prada coming from around the same time, I think the keyboard sound is something that we brought to the table. Some would say it had a massive impact in where it is now. Some would say, fuck you, you had nothing to do with it. I don't know. I don't care. But I would say that's the best, most significant aspect of, what we brought to the table.
So what made you want to become a musician? What was that spark for you that said, yeah, that's what I want to do right there?
My dad was a repo guy, repo man. He repossessed cars. And so basically, if people don't pay the bill, the car will go to auction. Sometimes they get their car back and they don't want the bag or whatever. Anyways, there was on his lot, there was this locker, and it was all just shit that people didn't come claim or didn't get out of the car before it went to auction, whatever. It's just packed with CDs. And so we would listen to Ozzy. Randy Rhoads is the reason I play guitar. Ozzy records, Pantera. Hearing those records that I just, got out of a locker of unwanted things just made me really love music, and players like Randy Rhoads and Dimebag really took that to the next level and made me want to be focused on guitar.
It amazes me how people say they love Dime and they love, of course, like you just said, Randy Rhoads, and you see the people who really do it and you see the people who really don't do it. You know what I'm saying? That's kudos, man, that you say that about them, and I really do that. That's awesome.
I think you can hear Randy's particular style, and how it's affected me. As far as when it comes to the new age of guitar, you have these people that are just going speed for the sake of speed. YouTube is teaching these younger kids; they're getting faster and crazier as time goes up. But I'm almost not thinking I'm not thinking that's for the better always. I think speed's great, but you have a dude like Randy, or you had a dude like Randy. You would sing his guitar solos, and so they were fast, they were technical. He was an incredible player, but he also had melody, and he made you want to sing these things back. And I think that's something that I try at least attempt to do, but I think that's getting lost in some of the younger guitar players that are faster than me for sure. And I'm not getting that confused. That what I'm saying is I think that we're losing some of the flavor and the individuality in guitar because of that.
Here's something too you hit on. I'm glad you said this. Was when you said you could sing along to Randy's guitar solos, and it's true. And I think the reason why that stood out is because where he played classical music growing up to learn guitar.
Absolutely.
I think that's what helped him the most. And the man was just a brilliant, brilliant guitarist, and so was Dom. I mean, those two guys, you can't get any better than those two.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. You got these kids younger and faster, but it's not making better guitar solos. Yeah. Some people may think that speed is, I hear people all the time like, oh, you're not as good as this guy because he's faster. I'm like, well, shit, we're going for different things then. Because I'm not going for that.
Right. Yeah, this is my stuff. If you don't like it, there's the door.
Absolutely.
Is there a country that stands out or shocks you that Born of Osiris gets support from, or even your music gets played in, man?
One of them right now, so our keyboard player who does vocals as well is with his girlfriend in Thailand right now for 2 or 3 weeks or something. And he's just been saying it's been crazy that he'll go to a bar. He's not going to rock bars or metal bars in Thailand. He's just saying generally when he walks around in Thailand, he's been getting a ton of people coming up to him talking about the band. So for me is one of them, especially because I feel like even in the States where we've toured the most and you would think we are the most built here, it happens where people notice the band in public, but he's saying it's happening more in that country, which is cool. I think it's very interesting. We've played there before. It was amazing. The show is great. You could tell that they're grateful when an American band comes there because it's easy to stay in the States. It's comfortable. So, and not a lot of bands can even afford that. Like the money that you have to pay a band to cover all their flights to get there and all their flights to get back and their internal travel, it's hard for a band to be big enough to be worth that much money for the promoter to pay you without being there and building yourself up first. So you almost have to be big there without putting in the work there enough to get the money to go there. It's hard. So that's one that stands out to me. Any
show or a moment that stands out to you guys possibly that made you think, yeah, this is really worth everything that we have put into this so far? I mean, I know you guys have done this for a long time, but have you had that moment yet, if possible?
I think it's hard to pinpoint for me personally a moment or a show, but I definitely think when you mentioned the Killswitch thing, that was definitely a time where we're like, okay, 11 years in now, because you think, a lot of people say like, well, shit, if it didn't work by the 5th year, who do you think is going to keep getting better? Like, this is kind of where you are now. And I'm not going to argue that, we're, for the style of music we are, I don't think tomorrow we're going to be all over the radio. I understand that. But to be 11 years in, the tours we did this year between the Buried and me and Killswitch, we're able to tour with bigger bands every year. And so that makes you feel good. It makes you feel like this is working. Makes you feel like you're starting to get that long-term legacy style credit in the metal scene that you're kind of striving for at that point. Like, I'm not putting us on the level of those bands, those Meshuggahs, those like Monumental, but I'm just saying as the further we go under our second decade, it's starting to feel like we're getting just a slight bit more respect. We're not the young punks anymore that are like playing this music and acting like assholes backstage. We're kind of, it's all taking the next step into the second decade. And so the Killswitch tour was an eye-opener that said, things are going in the right direction.
What about your solo, man? Do you have anything coming up that you want to talk about or talk, just get out there about your solo stuff, maybe?
Yeah, this week, today and stuff, we're finishing like the last details, which are like the artwork and the booklet, which isn't even much because there's no lyrics. It's not going to be some grand booklet that you flip through. But that's like the last detail to where we can get a release date. So if it was a few days later, I might have that for you. But I can say in like March, I believe, the album will come out. It's called Infinite Mind, just my name, Lee McKinney, and 8 songs, guitar-driven. Yeah, just excited about that. I've been playing for 20 years now, and it's been tempting to just like make one of these before. But as I mentioned briefly about just being young and kind of being a punk growing up in our young 20s, and I don't think I was mature enough to make something that I would be proud of 30 years later. And I think that I'm glad that I waited this long, taking things a little more seriously now. And so starting now, I'm going to start releasing a lot of music in that solo guitar world.
And plus, too, when you take it out on solo from your band, that's a big step, man.
Yeah, it is. And there's a lot of people within the band even that are like, what's this mean? Is that guitar solo that could have been a Born Of Osiris thing go on your solo album? There's all those worries. And so kind of just got to do my thing and just know that I'm working hard for all the things I do. One thing is now, like, I live in Texas now, and so none of the band lives here. So for me, my wife's at work, 9 to 5 style during the week. I'm working on music all day, every day. I treat it like a job. And so that's one thing people don't understand about me is with the rest of the band, they do that. During the day, they just do whatever they want. Not saying there's anything wrong with it. Video games, exercise, whatever the hell it is, partying. But for me, like, I have such a focused schedule. I'm able to do all this stuff without hindering my work in one or the other. So, yeah, there's worries and there's fears about things, but I just know that I keep my head forward, stay in my lane of hard work, and so I'll be good.
Folks, you want to get out and pick up Born of Osiris' new album that's out right now on Sumerian Records called The Simulation. You want to get out and pick that up. Lee, thank you so much. How can folks stay in touch with you guys, buy this new album, tour dates, tickets? How can you do that, my man?
It's on, Apple Music, Spotify. I just actually went to Best Buy the other day and totally didn't realize or forgot that they don't even sell records anymore. So, FYE, album stores, it's just crazy. Best Buy is not one of them. Anyways, social media, of course, Facebook /Born Of Osiris, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff.
And what about your solo stuff? How can they keep up with you on that as well?
I would say if you follow me, it's Lee Osiris is what I have for Instagram and Twitter. That'd be the best bet. I'm not on social media all day, but I do keep up to the point where you will be the first one to know via social media if I have updates.
Lee, before I let you go, good sir, would you care to do a promo for my show?
Absolutely, no problem. All right. What's up? This is Lee McKinney from Born Of Osiris, and you are listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great music coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour and BODS Mayhem Radio Network. Please get out and check out our Facebook page. It has our podcast link, plus it has our YouTube link. Also, get out and check Born Of Osiris and give them a good chance, guys. I'm pretty sure you're going to dig them. Thanks, Lee, so much, and the best luck to you guys.
Thank you very much for having me.
That's when I take my